This is our roughly 15th recording for programming mobile devices. And what we're going to look at now is iconography, how to create an icon. Again, for this example, I'm using the Android guidelines. Feel free to use any others if you wish. The idea is that we have a baseline icon that's 48 by 48 pixels. And then we have different versions, different resolutions for different hardware that we might be running on. So an icon that looks good on a mobile phone might not look so good on a TV or on a tablet device or something like that. So what they recommend is creating at least 3 copies, MDPI, HDPI, XHDPI, and possibly up to XXHDPI. And what's nice about this, and there's also an LDPI as well. What's nice about this is that you can take these different icons and drop them, for Android at least, drop them in these different folders. And all you have to do is refer to the name of the image, and the Android operating system will pick the appropriate icon based on what piece of hardware you're running on. So you just refer to the image drawable background JPG or icon.png, and the Android software will pick the appropriate resolution based on what hardware it's running on. So that's pretty handy. It's kind of nice how it's flexible with this. What they recommend here is considering a baseline image and then multiplying it up by this 2:3:4:6 scaling ratio. So high density would be about 1.5 times as large. So this is 48 by 48. High density would be 1.5 times as large, 72 by 72. Extra high density would be twice as large, 96 by 96. 3 times, if I do the math in my head, we're looking at, let's see, sorry, 96 plus 48 is going to put us around, what, around 144, I think? 144 by 144, if I'm doing the math right. Somewhere around there. So probably the easiest thing is to create the largest version and then scale it down. That way, if you take a small image and scale it up, it looks really blocky. If you take a big image and scale it down, it's a lot easier to do. So they have lots of different suggestions here on what good icons look like. So in any case, what we want is we want something that will represent our brand, but something that's not too busy. So we want something that really sticks out on the phone, but not too much detail, because we don't want a picture or something like that. That's gonna fade away pretty quickly. So let's take a look. If we go in, there's lots of different options that we can use. There's things like the make app icon, and there's an Android icon generator. So you can search online and you can typically find a lot of different options. One of my favorites is some free software called Gimp. Let's see. Sorry, here's one. Let me show this one before I go to Gimp. So here is an icon generator where you can type in some text. Like I can just say that, like, the plant place is stylized P, for instance. We can choose a font. We can choose how to scale it, what color, what shape, and then it will generate an icon for us. What's really nice is it's kind enough to generate them in all different sizes. That's pretty cool. So you can do things like change the shape. There we go. It'll take just a second to regenerate this. Okay, bevel or a circle. So that's a pretty easy way to put together a quick and dirty icon. Again, this one I just searched. It's called, I forget what this is called, Android Asset Studio. Yeah, that's what it's called. So many times that's all an app really has to be is one letter. So don't overthink this one if you don't have to. A nice single letter with maybe a good color. So let's do purple with a yellow background. Those are two contrasting colors that often look good together. Here we go. That doesn't look too bad, does it? Or orange and blue. Those are some other good colors that go together. So we'll do a blue. That is kind of an orange color, isn't it? We'll go with like that. That might look good. So if you wanted to just do like one letter, That's a perfectly good way to do it. Then for font, we can come back here. It kind of has an interesting drop down. There we go. I don't know what that is, but we'll see how that looks. Hopefully. Let's see if I can tab out and if it will update. There we go. So if you want to make a quick and dirty icon, and again, this is part of our final programming assignment, but this is perfectly acceptable. Download the zip with the icon, you're done. That's easy. So you'll see that you won't, for an icon, you typically won't put a whole lot of words in there. Usually it's just one letter or maybe two letters or two letters stylized in a specific way. So this again is called the Android Asset Studio. There are lots of others. There's this thing called Make App Icon. So I will leave that to your your creativity, how you wish to use it. I kind of like, so my favorite is Gimp. I like Gimp, which is a free software similar to Photoshop. So I'm going to choose new, and what I can do is I can go ahead and say the palette size. So I can say, let's see, let's see if I can remember, it was 96 by 96, I believe, was the XHDPI. So we'll start with that, 96 by 96 pixels. Okay, and we'll choose OK. And that will give us a little template here. Okay. Now I can choose, one second please, the layers. This is how image editing software works pretty well. You have these things called layers where you can toggle them on or off like so. So I turn off that layer like that, and we see this checkerboard pattern kind of indicates that we have a transparency here. So now what I can do is I can right click, and this is a little bit off screen. Let me see if I can bring it back on screen. I can't. Right click and choose new layer, and then that just drops a new layer on top of our existing layer. I can come over to the toolbox and I can choose this letter, which indicates that I want to type something in here. I can give it a size, play around with that size. I can give it a font. I have to remember the font that we used for plant places. I want to say it was, 1 second please, Berlin Sans. Okay. So let's see if I can find Berlin Sans on here, which is the Plant Places Stylized P. One thing I did, I got an open source font basically. I went and searched for a font where I was able to use that in a logo without paying royalties on it. So when I was looking to do the Plant Places Stylized P, I wanted to find something that would look good with the bullet point right in the middle of it, but also a font that I could use without royalties. So let's see, Berlin Sans FB Bold. There we go. Yeah, so that's similar to what we used for the Plant Places P. So with the new layer selected, I'm going to type in here, and I'm going to put in a letter P. You see, that's kind of small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this guy up a little bit. Okay. Let's see if we can drag him up this way a little bit. And we'll keep taking him up. Okay, a little bit closer there, a little bit more like 101. I might have to kind of move him around a little bit more. And you see we eventually, okay, scale him up a bit more. We eventually are getting something similar to that Plant Places P. Okay, the stylized P. There we go. Okay, move him up just a little bit more. Okay. And okay, but that black color is pretty plain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the color here. And you see this little eyedropper tool. You can use that to go to an image and select a color. What I did is I went to the Plant Places website and I was able to grab the beige color and the green color so I could use the true colors that we're using on the website. You could also use the HTML notation if you happen to know that, and these are the two colors that we use for Plant Places, the beige and the green. So I'm going to choose the beige color as a background. Okay, and with any luck we'll say okay. Okay, and you're the font that I want now. I need to tell you to be in that color. That's the only trick. Okay, font. Oh, I see. I'm off by one. So down here, color. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that beige color. And there we go. And you see what we have here is a P. Now that's I am a little bit Let's see if I can move this up a little bit. There we go. I want to take up as much of that space as I can. I want to take up as much of this 96 by 96 as I can so it doesn't look like the icon is too small. So there we go. That's our drop shadow. Now, why do we want a drop shadow? If we take a look at something like, let me pull up a website here. Okay. If we take a look at something like Local Flora Project, this is a project I did for the zoo. Whoops, misspelled it a bit. Okay, this is a project I did for the zoo. Asked them, they said they wanted it to be colors like the zoo website, which was kind of this orange, green, and cream color. And they wanted a logo that would float across images like this. In hindsight, the one thing I would have done is I would have lightened these images up because it doesn't contrast well with that logo. But you see that the logo has a very subtle black drop shadow that provides at least a little bit of contrast. So a drop shadow will help us provide a little bit of contrast if we have a different colored background. So to make a drop shadow, what I do is I put the beige P here, and then what I'm going to do is I'll do a new layer. I'll right click and choose new layer again. Okay. And on this new layer, I'll turn off the other layers for a moment. On this new layer, I'm going to go back and do the same thing again. I am going to go to my toolbox and click the A and click in my new layer. And in the text editor, I'm going to do another P. Okay. And let's see, we'll move this P up a little bit. Let's see if I can grab this guy. Whoop, there we go. Move him up about here-ish. We'll just take a guess for the moment, right about there. Okay, and then for the color on this P, I'm going to change the foreground color to green. Now you see, right now we're just looking at the green P because I've turned off the other P over here. I've made it invisible. I can turn on that other P by clicking over here and we get the eyeball. Okay, and now what I can do is I can move my green P. There we go. I can move my green P so you see it overlaps a little bit. So that's a nice thing about layers. I can turn on and off layers and see what it looks like with a bit of a drop shadow like that. Okay, there we go. So beige P only, green P with beige, green P without beige, nothing. That's the nice thing about layers is it lets us do things like this. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more layer. Okay, new layer. And there we go. And on this new layer, I'm going to add the little bullet point that we see that kind of makes it look like it is a, make it look like it's a kind of a location pointer. So on the layers, channels, and paths, I have just slightly off screen here. Let me move down the screen just a moment. Okay, I have some different bullets. Okay. So I grab the little bullet point here, and I'll turn off the other layers. Well, maybe I'll turn on this one. And that's what we're calling a brush. So, and 1 second, please. I've lost my screen. Okay. So I click on, there we go. There's my brush with my bullet. And okay, I want a bigger circle than that. Let me see if I can get a bigger circle. That might be as big as it comes. There are a couple other tricks I can do, but we'll go ahead. We'll go with this circle. Yeah, that is kind of small, actually, isn't it? Can't we get a little bit? Can I type in maybe? See if I can go. See if I can force it to go bigger. Oh, it doesn't look like it. You know what I might have done? I might have actually just created a circle for that. I honestly don't remember. Scale, let's see. What if we go up a little bit? There we go. Okay, that's good. So I scaled it up. That's what we did. Let me take that to like 1.42. Now I want to go a little bit bigger. 1.61. It's about right. Let's go a hair bigger. 1.84. There we go. So I did black. Whoop, that kind of came as cream, didn't it? Let me go back here. And let's see, for black, I'm going to choose over here. We're going to make it 00, 00, 00, 00, which I happen to know is the color black, and we'll choose OK. Okay, now let's try that one more time. Black? Nah, I don't like that. Control Z, take those both out. Okay, roughly centered, and that was kind of tricky to get it centered just right. As a matter of fact, what I can do, I can zoom up on this a bit, which is a good idea. Okay, now it's a bit easier to kind of visualize where the center is. So I did a black bullet point, and then, okay, let's knock down the scale a little bit. So take it down to about, what was that, 1.42? That's about right. Now, inside of this black bullet point, let's see, we will do a cream-colored bullet point, or a cream-colored circle. Okay, and again, try and line it up, make it roughly center. Looks about right. There's our cream. Okay, within that, let's go to a smaller circle. That's about right. And this one we're going to make black again. Okay, black, there we go. Okay, and again, roughly eyeball where the center would be, and there we go. Okay, so now what we have, let's take a look at our layers, and I'll move our other dialogues out of here. So now take a look. We have the stylized P with the bullet point in the middle, which kind of, it's not exactly like a bullet point you would see on a map, but it brings that representation where you can kind of, it kind of makes the user remember that. So what we can do now, we can take off the bullet and we see the green P. We can take off the green P, just put the bullet there, and then we can put all the layers together and we see the stylized P logo. So this is pretty close to the stylized P on the Plant Places store. If I go here, okay, and I go to play.google.com. Okay, pretty close. So pretty close. It looks like my dimensions were a little bit different on that P, but you see how we have the drop shadow, and of course this is zoomed up, so it'll look a little more natural when it's this size. So you see we have the drop shadow, the cream color drop shadow, the green on top, and then the bullet point in the middle of the P. What I could do now is say File and then Save As, and we can save this as a, let's say, stylized P96px, so 96 pixels. I'm going to save this as a native, where's my save as type? I'm going to save this as the native Gimp format, because what that will do is that will preserve layers. Then what I could do is I could do save a copy, and I could save this as a PNG or a GIF. Either of which where I can do a transparency. So one thing you'll see is that the background shows through. You see how it shows through as gray behind the P? That's because it's transparent. So I can save it as a transparency so that it will show the stylized P with a bullet point and let the background show through anywhere else. That's a very good way to do it. That's that's kind of a recommended approach. So I can do save as copy, and then I can save it as a PNG, like so, or a GIF if I wish. Okay. Merge visible layers. Okay, there we go. Okay, and save. Now what I can do is I can say, I can go up here, and remember we need to make at least 3 copies. The large copy at 96 by 96, a smaller copy at 72 by 72, and then an even smaller 48 by 48. So what I can do now is I can say edit, or I'm sorry, image, and then scale image, and now I can scale it down to 72 by 72, there we go, and scale. Okay, now I could save this as, let's do save as. We'll save this one as the 72 version. Okay, and there we go. And then we scale it down one more time, so save as, image, and then scale image. Then the smaller version is a 48 by 48. And I believe the very smallest is a 36 by 36. But in any case, scale down, save again. So File, Save As, and we can change this to stylized P48. XCF. And again, once we've saved it like that, we still have our layers associated, so we can go back and we can change those layers as we wish. But we can also save this as a PNG, so we actually get a proper app icon out of it. So that is an easy way, several options that are an easy way to make icons that are going to match what the iconography guidelines that Android gives us. So an icon, a simple icon for each of the different sizes we made. And we started with an XHDPI at 96 by 96, scaled it down to HDPI, and finally scaled it again to MDPI. One note, while we saved local copies with different names, when we actually deploy it in our app, what we're going to want to do is put each of those copies in these specific folders, but we are going to want to give them the same name here. Okay, we are going to want to give them the same name, because when we're programming, we just program against that name, and it finds the appropriate folder depending on the hardware that it's running in. So if we take a look at icon.png and MDPI, might take a moment to render here. It's the same icon.png, just different sizes each time. Okay, so there we go. There's a small version. Or if I go to Favico, okay, there's the medium stylized P. Here's the large stylized P. Same exact icon, just different size. And the the low. This is the smallest, the medium, and then the highest right here. So we should see, okay, that one's a lot bigger than the other two we've looked at. So it is the same image name once we put it into these folders, just different sizes of that same image. So there we go. That's a quick and easy way to make an Android icon with Gimp. Of course, there are many other software, many other choices you could use. This is one that I use. You're certainly welcome to use whatever you want, but you see in about 20 some minutes we were able to make a pretty good looking icon. I mean, given the time, not too bad. So that's our last lecture for this semester. Hope you've enjoyed it. I look forward to your feedback and questions, and don't forget to do quiz question suggestions. Thank you.